we have a laptop, we're ready for a bit of demo time. So, Stephen, I have been sharing about this flow all over the world, talking about when people ask me what's the most outrageous flow you've ever seen, it is this, which goes and pulls idea status from Lithium and generates a web page with statuses, and so you can visually see where everything is. So that's how I understand it. Go ahead and please just step through it for us real quick and show us how this monster is actually made, because I think everyone is just going to be super impressed with this thing.
Cool. So what I've done is created a flow that I can run on demand, and it will first go to Lithium, like you said, and it just is a regular HTTP action because we don't have a connector to Lithium. But of course, you don't need a connector. You can just go and connect to whatever you want. And what I wanted to do for this web page is create buckets of features.
Right.
Because I want some features sorted by, like, hey, what are the new connectors that are coming, and what are some of the SharePoint related features that are coming, etc. So I actually created a bucket list that you can start with general features, but you can add other types of features here.
Okay.
And the way that the flow works is it actually saves the file content to Azure Blob. So I can go and I can call an HTTP to delete the blob content. So then it actually gets the data for each of the posts on Lithium. It actually has to go and see, oh, for this post, is it something that's been completed recently? So I have a condition in here. And then if it has, then I go and I actually update the blobs with the content of that post.
Okay.
So I go do that, and then after I've done that for each of the posts, I actually generate the content for each of the buckets.
Yep.
Right? So this goes through each of the buckets from that bucket list at the top, and it's then grouped by whether or not the idea is completed, started, planned, or future.
Yeah.
So I actually have to pull each of that content individually, and then I actually compose the HTML for that. So you can see here I've just included some HTML that includes all the content for each of those buckets, and then at the end I just create a final file in Azure Blob that has the full HTML of that page.
So wild. That is so wild. And so is it possible for us to run it to see the output?
Sure, it'll take a little while, but I can kick it off and then we can take a look at the results. So
cool.
You can test from right inside of the Flow Designer, and
super handy. Love that feature.
And there we go. So now it'll, I think I actually have to choose how many ideas I want to pull from.
Okay.
So that can make it run faster if I only want to get the top, X ideas or whatever, and I click Run Flow, and off it will go. Perfect.
Okay. All right. And so now this was business. Now let's talk a little bit of pleasure again, a little bit of mix of the two. So the next question is, Stephen, what is your favorite flow? So if there was a flow that meant the most to you or saved you time or whatever it might be, one that stands out, what is it for you? What's that one flow?
So this next flow is actually conceptually related to this. And it's something that inside of the Business Applications Group, we publish these roadmaps, right? And the roadmap comes out every 6 months or so about the next set of things we're working on. And the process inside of the team was write a giant Word document.
Yeah.
And then there would be people who would take the Word document content and create files in GitHub. And the files in GitHub would then have a bunch of links to each other. There'd be tables with like dates of when these things are being released.
Yep.
And you'd have to keep all this up to date by hand. You would have to go and make sure that if a feature is coming out earlier or later, you have to update the right column. If you want to rename the feature, you have to update all of the 5 places that feature is being referenced. Wow. It was really kind of an onerous process. So I worked with Evan, who is on the Power Apps team, to build out a few flows that could really streamline this process. So I can show that to you now.
Love it. Okay, cool.
What I've done for this is I created a solution for it. Okay. And solutions are a great way to group together the different aspects of what you're working on, and I didn't want these things to show up in my flows. So I created a release note sync solution. And this has a bunch of flows that all work together in order to accomplish this. And there's kind of a master flow that triggers all of these other children flows. So we can click on this and take a look. And what this flow does is it goes to, well, be sure to register with the Business Application Summit.
Yeah, definitely do that.
It goes to CDS and it, well, first what it does is actually creates a GitHub branch for us to push these changes to.
Okay.
So you can see that that's happening here.
Gotcha.
And then once the GitHub branch is created, it then goes and will update all of the release note articles for the business applications. So with that, you can see it is going to call CDS, and it's also going to download some content from GitHub, and it's going to call a bunch of children. So it's a really simple flow, right?
Yeah. Except until we open that for each there.
Yep. So it's actually going to go through every product, and then for each product, there's some release notes that it's going to go, and it's going to call another flow to create the article for that particular release note.
Wow.
And every product release also has a single overview page, so it's going to go create that page. There's also a planned features page, so it's going to create that page,
Wow.
as well as kind of these theme pages. So it's like one of the themes of Flow is like a bigger focus on integrations with other products. So like
Yep.
that's one of them. So basically, it creates all these pages in parallel, and then at the end, it just checks to see if any pages need to be deleted, goes through and deletes the ones that aren't there.
Wow.
But what this is showing is this really decomposes the process, because up here, every one of those page types has a different flow that I actually call into. So it's like creating the release note article is a flow here, and I can actually click on this and we can see what does it actually look like to create the article itself.
Yeah.
And this, there'll be some markdown inside this flow. It will, again, it'll go to CDS and pull some of the content. So we can actually just take a look, I guess, at one of the flows that have run and see it, for example. And this is called by that kind of parent flow that will trigger all these other things together.
So for those of you who've watched my videos previously, I have tended to call these controller flows. And so one controller then calls the other flows, and so same thing, parent, child, master, same idea.
Yep, and you can see here, this gets the release note from CDS, it gets the owner of the release note, it gets the team that's working on that thing, so it can get like the doc writer and those types of things. And then it goes and it just, based on whether or not this thing exists and has personas, it'll create some persona strings, and then at the end, it will create a set of content here in Markdown that we can go and use.
Awesome. Man, this is legit. So now, I, as one of the PMs, wanting to update my release notes, so now my single source of truth is I go into CDS, and
That's
I
right.
make my updates there, and then the flow takes care of the rest.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Wow, that's beautiful. Man, so you've seen it here. Steven builds the craziest flows. There's no doubt about it. If you want to put a flow on the line and say, I build crazier flows than Steven, we would love to see that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see it.
Absolutely. So go ahead and drop some links in the description. Leave some comments for us with your crazy flows as well. Steven, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Man, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. I know that everyone out there is going to be so stoked to hear from you and get to know more about you. So, what should they do?
Sign up for the Business Application Summit that's coming up.
Sign up for the Business Application Summit, definitely. Click like, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in the next video.